Don't have a quote for this one. The kids are still missing. So that's your opening.
Today's a little bit more serious.
A little more sad.
A little more sad. So we thought about doing a quote, just like we love to do when we make up ones. But then we were like, so this is Jen.
This is Becky.
This is too close to home.
And today we're going to talk about Chloie Leverette and Christopher Daniel, who are commonly referred to as the modern day Sodder children. And I could have swore we had covered the Sodder children, but I guess we didn't. I guess it's one that I looked into to cover at some point, and we never did. So you'll learn a little bit about the Sodder children here. And maybe I just watched an episode on something of them or listened to somebody else cover them. That's possible, too.
There's been times that I've been like, this would be good for the podcast. And in my brain, I've already registered that that's going to be for the podcast, even though we've never done a podcast for that subject. So probably the same.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Like, are you sure? And also, it sounds like we're being like, I've written so many podcasts. I always thought that was like let me toot my own horn. But no, you write a lot and then you just get down a lot of wormholes and you just don't remember anymore.
You don't. You're like, oh, I did cover that. Oh, okay. How about that?
You know what? I should cover it. Oh, already did this? Okay.
So we're covering this one because both of these children's birthdays were this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And September will mark 13 years since they have disappeared. So, like I said, this September will mark 13 years since the siblings, Chloie Leverette and Christopher Gage Daniel, went missing from their grandparents' home in Bedford County, the site of a devastating fire and the start of Tennessee's longest-running Amber Alert. Their Amber Alert is still active and is the longest-running in Tennessee's history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was like a finite time for them. Like, I didn't know there was they kept going until...
I did not realize that either. That was something that I learned while writing this.
Well, the more you know.
Huh.
Always dropping knowledge on me. I mean, I'm better for you.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Chloie was born to her mom, Cheryl, on June 23rd, 2003 in Middle Tennessee. Cheryl had some struggles, but tried to make things work as she absolutely loved being a mom. Sadly, Chloe's biological father would pass away while she was very young, and then Cheryl struggled even more. 2 years after Chloie was born, Cheryl gave birth to a baby boy she named Christopher Gage Daniel. Everybody would call him Gage, and it was soon apparent that Cheryl was just unable to continue caring for these kids. When Chloie was 4 and Gage was 2, custody of the kids were given to Cheryl's grandparents, Molly and Leon McLaren. So Leon goes by Bubba, so we're going to refer to them as Molly and Bubba for the rest of the episode. So the grandparents loved the kids and took them in without hesitation. Now, while they lived with their grandparents, as their mother worked hard to get her life stable, she did stay in the children's life, and she only lived up the road from them. She lived very close. But she knew her parents could provide a more stable home than she was able to.
Which is a selfless thing for a mom. That's a hard decision.
It is.
You know, because you could keep those children with you, but you're keeping the children in misery.
Yes.
Or you can give them better, even if it means away from you.
Yep. And it takes a lot of strength to acknowledge that and do that. I think sometimes people fault the parents too much for that, but that's exactly what a parent is supposed to do, the best interest for their child. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means not with them.
Exactly.
So growing up in Middle Tennessee was a fun place for 9-year-old Chloie and 7-year-old Gage. They were being raised by their grandparents, who by all accounts loved and doted on them. Their grandparents' home was a farmhouse in a rural setting with lots of land to roam and play on. The kids loved playing outside and riding on their grandparents' gator, which, if you know what a gator is, it's kind of like it's an ATV
like
of sorts.
Golf cart ATV hybrid.
Yes, there we go. On Sunday, September 23rd, 2012, they had a fun day roaming around outside and having a great day. Monday was a school day, so the grandparents called them in at 6:30 to have dinner and began their nighttime routine. It is unknown exactly what happened in the house during the next 3 hours, possibly eating dinner, taking baths, watching some television, but in just a few hours, everything would change. At around 9:30 p.m., the fire department received a call about a house fire. It is unclear who called it in, and that has not been a point of contention in the case, so it was likely a passerby or a neighbor. But a side note is that I personally believe that it is a very important information, but I am who I am. We know a lot of times when the criminals have called in and reported things, and they were the ones that did it. So why we're just like, I don't really matter who called it in. I do think it's important to
It
know
does
who
matter.
called it in.
How many times did they return to the scene of the crime, insert themselves in an investigation?
Exactly. But who am
Listen,
I?
I might not be a detective, but I'm a girl
Who does a podcast?
with her best friend.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So when the fire department arrived, Chloe Gage and their grandparents' home was engulfed in flames. Firefighters struggled to put out the fire. They lacked enough water storage and would continually run out of water, needing to stop and go fill up the water truck. So, important thing to understand, because when I first ran that and came across it, I'm like, do what? To who now? But what I learned later on in the research is they were so far out in the country that this was like country, rural farmlands. There were no fire hydrants.
Oh, shit.
So all they had was the water that was on the fire truck. So
Well,
when it ran out, they were out and they had to go back down to the gas station to fill her up, basically. Yeah.
Could you imagine just how chill, like, after a while you'd be, like, doing this job? You're like, well, all right, we gotta head on back now. We'll be right back, guys.
Don't go nowhere.
Don't die on me.
And I guess it's one of those things that you never think of, that in those rural areas, there aren't fire hydrants.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's what I just kept thinking that. And then when I read it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
When you only have a house every 5 miles or so, or 10 miles, what are you going to do? Put a fire hydrant in each person's yard?
No.
That's
money that we ain't got to spend.
exactly, because the town is so small.
Yeah.
So it's not like that.
There's no tax infrastructure to support it.
There is not.
No.
And it's not just installing fire hydrants. You have all the waterway underneath to get water to them, and the cost of maintaining them. They don't have that kind of money.
Your department is probably a volunteer fire department.
Probably.
With very minimal training.
Yes. As they're putting out this fire, Cheryl, their mother, was called and told, the house is on fire. So she comes right over. And she's literally just sitting outside watching this house burn with her parents and her children in it, and watching the fire truck have to leave to go get more water. Could you imagine how absolutely horrible that would be?
Oh, that would be terrifying.
And you have no idea.
Helpless.
Are they in there? Did they get out? If they got out, where are they? Nothing.
All the questions and none of the answers.
When they did finally extinguish the fire, they found the remains of the grandparents, the family dog, and the family's pet bird. Initially, after finding the grandparents and the animals, it was believed the kids died in the fire as well, but they could not find the kids or any sign of the kids. The next few days would involve a thorough search of the property looking for the family and trying to determine the origin and the cause of the fire. After a long search of the rubble, the bodies of Molly and Bubba were found in the basement of the home, and also, again, found were the pet poodle and their pet bird. Still no children. While initially it was believed that the children perished in the fire, a new possibility arose to authorities and family. The children were not in the home, so where were they? An Amber Alert was officially released on September 26th, 3 days after the deadly fire.
It had to be a very difficult one, considering you don't know what they were wearing.
Mm-mm.
You don't know who was with them last. If there was anybody else in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about that. The things I read on an Amber Alert. What is the child wearing? What they look like? Who they were last seen? The last vehicle they're seen? Well, only one of those details is available now.
That's it. What they looked like. Nothing else.
That's it.
The local sheriff's office brought in experts to continue sifting through the remnants of the fire. This included a team of professional arson investigators and forensic analysts. One team that was brought in, one of the experts that they brought with them, he helped sift through the World Trade Center debris to locate and find remains and identify them and bring them home to victims. So when I tell you they brought in the best of the best to try to find the kids, I mean, you're talking someone who went through the World Trade Center rubble, identifying bodies and finding remains.
That was quite extensive.
Quite extensive.
I didn't realize how extensive until I visited the 9/11 museum. The footprint of the building is so deep. They found things that were from New York prior to when the World Trade Center was built. Like there was a ship.
Oh, wow.
All sorts of different things below. So like that's a lot of rubble that man went
Yes.
through. So you're right. He the best of the best.
Yeah. And you're just bringing him to go through a farmhouse and he can't find them. So kind of point to the sign they weren't there.
Yeah.
So like I said, they were some of the best of the country, possibly the world. This team of experts found no remains of the children at all. So when we say the children were not there, I truly believe they were not there. We aren't talking some small town local who holds 4 titles leading the charge. It was the best.
This is the guy that was also the high school football coach, the geography teacher, and the coroner.
Exactly. It's not what we're talking about here.
No.
We're talking about the real deal.
He's the guy that you see on like CNN getting interviewed.
Yes. Law enforcement immediately began searching around the area. The area was searched on foot and by air and even brought in search dogs and cadaver dogs. Several fire experts were called in to try to find some trace of the missing bodies in the ash, and investigators used infrared cameras attached to helicopters to scour the scene, but nothing turned up and nothing was found. So, they got those helicopters out there. I don't know if you've ever seen them on any crime shows. Every now and then I'll watch kind of like the body cam shows. I don't care for those ones too much, but the ones where they are like I watched one not too long ago. I was showing JJ where they brought out one of those helicopters. And so, they do the infrared cameras where you can see the people down there. And it was one where the cops were trying to get this guy who ran in the woods. And you could see the guy hidden like behind a tree and the cops were coming up but didn't know he was there. And so the helicopter's like, no, stop. Straight ahead. He is straight ahead of you behind a tree. And so then you see the cops turn around and go back and try to come around another way. It was so fucking cool.
That is wild.
Yes. You literally see the 2 little cops walking and the guy's over here laid down with his gun pointing at them. And they're like, no, turn the fuck around. He's like looking right at you. He's about to shoot your ass. And, it was all more
I bet they felt like
than
special fucking forces. That's what I would feel.
Yeah. And so they brought those helicopters in to search the woods to see if the kids had perhaps ran from the fire and were in the woods somewhere. And they were not.
Which is not something I've ever heard really necessarily being used before.
Me neither.
Which is like, why have we not been using this?
Right. Yeah, it was very interesting. And, fun to watch while I sit on my couch at home and I'm in no danger.
Absolutely. I love that no danger factor.
It's key to a good time.
It's like there's times that I'm reminded that sometimes being on the couch is better than being in person. Like there was someone who went to go see a tomb in Egypt, and it's like this long, thin walkway straight down, and one side it's like really crouched. You have to crouch down, and you have people coming up while you're going down, and then you get down, and it's just a fucking dark room with no breeze and a bunch of people being loud.
No, thank you.
No, that's cool. My couch is much more comfortable.
I'll look at the pictures that you take and trust you that it was magical.
Yes. Look at that. Yeah, so great.
Cool.
You know what I didn't get? Dysentery for drinking water.
That's what I did not get.
You know what I also didn't get? Getting bit by weird bugs.
And you know what else? I didn't have to smell the BO because I'm sure there was quite a bit of that.
Oh, I can't stand that. Oh.
Positive. So many questions were trying to be answered. Did the kids get out of the fire and run to the woods? But if they did, why could the search dogs not find them? Why could the infrared cameras not find them? The next prevailing theory is that somebody took them. And this remains the most pondered and unanswered thought to date. And what caused the fires? Could this help to understand where the kids were? Now, most people believe that the children were not in the house, especially the experts that were brought in and found no evidence or remains. But if you're thinking, well, maybe the fire burned hot. I mean, it could happen, right? Burn hot, they completely disintegrated.
But bones don't burn though, right?
Well, when you cremate someone.
Yeah, but they just become brittle and they grind them down.
Sounds good to me. I've never known you to be wrong.
That's exactly the truth, though. When they cremate you, your bones are left behind, and they have a bone pulverizer machine. So your ashes are not just your ashes; they're your ashes plus a little bit of everybody who got left behind.
Exactly. But before we even worry about all of that science and technical that Jennifer put into it, I want you to remember they found the remains of a fucking bird. Okay, if you can't burn up the birdie bones, you ain't burning up the cherry bones.
Because bird bones are usually hollow.
Yes. And the bird was there. And I attempted to read this Reddit thread about people asking questions. Man, I closed that shit out so quick. Because they're like, well, the bird didn't burn up because it was in a cage. A fireproof cage? Why? Why do you think
Flames
that matters?
worry about bars?
Apparently, if your house catches on fire, jump into a cage, close the door, you're good.
Safe. You can breathe in everything, dog.
Everything. The fire knows it can't go there.
That's why that bird was totally alive, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. They found it chirping. It was like, fire.
You guys should have seen it. It got real hot, but thank God for these bars.
Exactly. So if you can find the remains of a bird and a poodle, if the remains could not be found, certainly of a 75-pound girl and a 50-pound boy, they would have been found. There was a lot of research and studies done on what happens to a body in fire and what is required to burn a body. Because of all that research, most people believe that if they were in the house, something of them would have been found. But the sheriff of Unionville, with a population of 1,500, still believed that the children likely perished in the fire. And I'm just here to say, he's the only motherfucker in all the research I did that says that. Even the rest of the boys on the force were like, nah, sheriff, I don't think that's...
Somebody's either guilty or extremely stupid.
Or extremely lazy.
That's true. That's also a big possibility.
It is. Because he is the only person.
I don't think people realize that there's not as many malicious as there is incompetent people in this world.
And just plain ignorant.
Yeah.
All other authorities involved in the case said they didn't believe the children were there at all. The medical examiner even came out and said the fact that the bird's remains were found indicates that certainly the children would have been found. He stated that even when you cremate a body for burial, you will open the door to collect the body. You can still tell there was a body there.
There's definitely an outline.
So this theory is extremely unlikely. He went on to say the odds that one part of the home was burning that hot and did not affect the rest of the house is very unlikely. Because people are like, well, maybe just where they were burned that hot and not all the rest of the house. Well,
if it was that hot of a fire, we have other problems.
And I'm just going to say...
a jet ball and jet fuel decided to pour copiously into just this one room.
And so I'm just going to leave those sentences there and let you marinate and think about what you want and how you think it went. But I'm going to go with everybody else besides the sheriff and say the children weren't there.
Yeah.
Just me. Investigators immediately began to look into anyone they could immediately link to the children. Of course, they started with the family members. Who else could have a reason to possibly take these two children? Everyone was cleared and the authorities were able to rule out the family. It wasn't Cheryl, their mother. She didn't have the children's. They confirmed that Gage's father didn't have them and Chloe's father was deceased. After months of expert analysis and investigation, a cause of the fire could not be determined. They could not say for certain whether it was an accident or arson, nor could they say even how or where it started.
Oh, wow.
Even 10 years later, with many, many experts looking at the evidence, the origin or cause could not be determined. They even brought in an investigator who worked in the Oklahoma City bombing, and he could not find a cause.
That's insane.
Yeah, they brought in all kinds of people because...
I mean, like, that's always the thing. Like, people will set fire, and then the fire investigator comes in and goes, here's where it started, here's how it spread, this is what kept it going, yada, yada, yada. Like, they're experts for a reason.
Yeah.
And if they come in and they're like, I'm floored, dog, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's crazy.
And one thing they said is they kind of believed that maybe nobody could figure it out because the fire truck had to keep going back and getting water. The fire burned for a longer period of time than a typical house fire would burn.
Yeah.
And so it made it more difficult to figure out what caused it. Because, typically if you go look at a house fire, it's been put out fairly quickly by the fire department. But this one, they was having to go 10 miles up the road, fill the truck back up with water.
Which takes time.
Yes.
Well, I should probably be a little dinky water hose.
Right?
Turn it on hot, Tony!
Turn around, dry back, and start over again.
Because it's like 10 minutes as a bird flies, but 20 minutes through the
as
holler.
a fire truck drives. And so again, there's speculation that the fire burned for such an extended amount of time that this may have contributed to being unable to rule a cause. So they decided to do an autopsy on the grandparents to see if they could find any signs that possibly their death was prior to the fire, but due to the extent of damage to the bodies from the fire, they were unable to find any cause. So if they were, say, suffocated, a lot of times they can still...
gone.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times they can still tell if they were, shot or stabbed because of markings on the bone, but they weren't able to determine that or rule out those causes from the bones they had left. But
I mean, because you don't always get hit in your bones when you get shot.
I mean, they couldn't even tell, was there soot in the lungs? There were no lungs anymore. So they had no idea how they died either.
Unless it was like a specific thing, like the what is it, the hangman's bone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Something like that that's specific.
So the grandparents, Molly and Bubba, were found together in the basement of the home. It was also determined that the basement door was open. Of course, if you are a true crime fan, That one sentence is immediately suspicious because we all know that folks in the basement with the fire and missing kids is the base for a crime.
Mm-hmm.
You're already like, don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Nothing good happens in basements, okay?
No. And it's not like they lived down in the basement. It was a true basement.
Yeah.
You just stored shit down there. There wasn't a room down there.
We
It wasn't
weren't
a
down
redone
there,
basement.
Playing foosball.
Yes.
Like this is a den.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
It's, in my brain, it's just like The Conjuring. Okay. You go down, there's like pianos and old pieces of this and that and cobwebs everywhere. We ain't having a good time down here.
And so when they found them in the basement, they were laying side by side in the basement on the floor. So people were
very suspicious.
Very suspicious. People were speculating. So their bedroom was above the basement. So people speculated that, well, they just fell through the floor during the fire from their bed. And that's why they were laying side by side.
But are they going to fall with all that and to follow perfect lines?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Missing.
And to add to that being incorrect.
Did the sheriff come up with that hypothesis?
Probably.
I feel like he would.
Probably him.
See, what happened was when the floor burned out, they came down in perfectly straight lines. Just like so.
So like I said, people think they were laying in bed, fell through the ceiling. But that was ruled out because debris that was on top of the body was the stuff from the bedroom.
Yeah.
So it can't get on top of them if they fell through and then they're covered in all of it.
Not
right.
under it.
Or on top of a large portion of it. On
Yep.
top of the burnt up bed, they'd be laying on top of it. No, it wasn't that way.
Mm-mm.
It was the opposites. All that shit was on top of them.
All that shit was on top. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The family also stated that they did not sleep in the room together. They had started sleeping in separate rooms on separate sides of the house because Grandma wore oxygen all the time and Grandpa had his own health elements. So they slept separately just because, I mean, you know, that sometimes like Jimmy wearing the sleep apnea machine, it's going to bother you. You're going to go sleep somewhere else because
I have
you
an
can't
aunt and
sleep in
uncle.
there.
They don't even sleep in the same room. And she's got a bad back and he snores. So,
yeah. So they sleep separately.
Lucy and Ricky Ricardo slept in different beds.
Exactly. Maybe they was doing it old school.
Honestly, I would sleep better if Jimmy wasn't up my ass.
Same. Cheryl, the kid's mother, also said that her parents would never leave the door open to the basement and there was no reason for them to be in the basement. So authorities noted that there was upward...
And this happened in the middle of the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
9:30 when they called the fire.
Absolutely no reason to be in the basement at that time of night. Mm-mm.
Authorities also noted that there were upwards of 30 propane tanks in the basement. And this is why Grandpa kept the door closed. The propane tanks were part of his work. And he did not like the kids even being in the basement, period.
Just for the risk.
Right.
Yeah.
But certainly not in the room with the propane tanks.
No.
And they said he was very adamant about that. And it wasn't just the kids. It was before that.
He was very Hank Hill about it.
Yes. Yes. And so they were like, there's absolutely no reason that door would be open because he was so
adamant about it.
Yes. And like I said, they were related to his job. So, of course, this raised a lot of red flags to the cause of the fire. But investigators said the propane tanks are generally safe. Now, Grandma was a smoker and she wore oxygen and she still liked to smoke in a house with oxygen. So there's a lot of different things. So if you're thinking your mind is hung up on the propane tanks and you're like, well, it's a propane tank. Well, propane tank explosions are extremely rare. Mm-hmm. Propane tanks are made with a valve system that automatically valves off when they get in pressure. Not like you got to go push the valve. They do it themselves.
Yeah.
They can obviously explode under certain circumstances, such as exposure to extreme heat or if there is a leak leading to ignition inside of a confined space. And obviously they were inside a confined space. If they do catch fire, they typically burn out quickly. But there were 30 of them. And they were in a contained space. So I'm not trying to say it's not possible. But some have speculated that perhaps they caught fire and that's why the grandparents were down in the basement. That it caught fire and they ran down there. But that still doesn't explain why they were laying side by side.
If there's 30 propane tanks and this man who works with them knows how dangerous propane tanks are, he ain't going down there trying to put finger in there like a boy in the dam. He's going to be like, get the fuck out.
And see, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, if they knew the propane tanks were down there and that he used them in his work, he would know if they caught fire down there. We're not going down there to...
There's no putting that out.
No. we gonna get the fuck out.
Not with that amount, like you said. That's a lot of fuel.
Yes. So I'm like, I don't think he would take his oxygen dependent wearing wife down there with him.
Here, come down here with more flammable tanks.
Yes. Let's see what's going on with this fire. Come on,
here,
people.
use your oxygen to blow this out.
Let's use some common sense here. I don't think that's what fucking happened.
No.
But people love to victim blame.
They really do, though.
And me being who I am, I was like, let me do my research and see about these tanks exploding.
Let me be open. Let me find out.
Let me watch some videos of propane tanks exploding because I want to see exactly what happens. Let me just say this. When a propane tank ignites and explodes, that motherfucker shoots off like a mini atomic bomb and it'll shoot like 150 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be quite clear that they were the cause of the fire.
They would have all taken off. Like, pew, 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 pew.
There'd be propane tanks all in the yard where they fell back down, okay?
It's a rain of propane tanks,
They would
guys.
not all be sitting down there still neatly stored. It's not how it works.
No.
And if you don't believe me, Mythbusters did an excellent video that you can watch on YouTube.
I was thinking that. It was like, I bet you Mythbusters did something about this.
They did. I watched it last night.
Always count on Adam Savage.
That's right. So to say that, ain't nobody walking down there and getting into that room if they explode. Like I said, feel free to check out the Mythbusters video. It's fantastic. And there's no evidence they exploded. And most importantly, almost all of the tanks were empty. So there wasn't even no propane in them.
There was nothing to be done.
No. They was just chilling. So the fire first began around 9:30. Those who knew the family said that the children would have been in bed by then. And possibly Molly and Bubba would have been too. They were old. I go to bed before 9:30 most nights.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't be in bed at 7:30 because, and the older you get, the less you sleep. I remember my grandma getting up at like 4 a.m. and she'd have like hot tea playing like solitaire.
Yeah. They're usually early riser or early to sleep and early risers.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still early enough to believe that they could have been awake too. 9:30 is that time where some people are going to bed, some are not.
And they're also taking care of kids, so who knows if they're prepping lunches for tomorrow or what have you. But the kids are probably in bed because it's a Sunday night, right?
Exactly.
So
I mentioned earlier that the family lived in the small town of Unionville. Unionville, Tennessee is located in Bedford County and is an hour south of Nashville. Locals there spoke highly of the family, especially Bubba. He was from the area and his family was known to a lot of people. One Unionville resident said that Unionville is not like a lot of small towns where everybody knows everybody and everybody socializes. They said that most people kept to themselves and that each family's community is more likely to be their church or their school. Mm-hmm. So since it was so rural and everybody was spread out, you didn't really know everybody because you may not see everybody.
I actually have been an hour south of Nashville because I have friends that live an hour south. Not in that town, in a different one. But it is really spread out.
Yeah.
It is very rural. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, but you are out there.
Exactly. So you don't really know all your neighbors because we're not talking a small condensed town. We're talking about a large area acreage-wise, but with a small amount of people on it.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing everybody and interacting with them, which it sounds like to add to my retirement list because it said, this ain't a small town where everybody knows everybody. Perfect.
I went and I ended up seeing what's her name? Shannon Doherty. There before she died. She actually lived nearby in Nashville, but it's like everybody didn't bother her. Like she's a celebrity on Charmed and people know her from 90210 or whatever the other show she's been on. But while we're sitting there having breakfast, not one soul acted like they knew her.
And see, that's probably why she was there. Mm-hmm. She wanted to be left the fuck alone.
Mm-hmm. So it tracks.
And I love that he said everybody minded their own business. Yes.
And I will say some of the best food was there too.
Of course.
Put that on our list for sure.
For sure. Listen it. So an hour to the northwest, you'll find Nashville, and an hour to the southeast, you'll find Chattanooga. This case, as is in the title, is eerily similar to a well-known case of the Sauter children. I think we can also all agree that human trafficking is a huge problem and is known to big cities. Mm-hmm. With two large cities just an hour away and missing kids, that definitely has to be a possibility that people remember.
They're not going to these like hyper vigilant areas either to get children. They're going to the places where children are just left to be.
Yeah, and that was a place where they're left to be. Nobody may even pass your house for days.
Mm-hmm.
So they can be out there playing, and you don't have to be like I am with Emma and you are with Camilla, sitting out there within damn near an arm reach length of them.
Exactly.
Another problem with finding an answer is the simple fact it's a small town. We all know they aren't equipped to handle unusual cases like this one. The officers have limited experience and resources. Not downing them, just stating the obvious.
This is probably the most significant event in that town in 50 years.
Yes.
Probably even its entire creation, to be honest.
And, they did call in people to search and do things they couldn't do, but...
Which, you know what? That was awful humble of them, because there's a lot of small towns that would be like, listen, we got our own.
It clearly wasn't the sheriff's choice, because he still believed the kids were in their house. He'd still be like,
I'm pretty sure.
So they probably had a vote of 4 officers, and it was 3-1. And what do you think happened to them? There is sadly little information out there about this case. It needs more light on it and more people looking at it. The TBI was brought in, but they had little to work with to find the kids. The TBI has no direct evidence that the children who were supposedly last seen around the home at 6:30 Sunday night and about 3 hours before the fire began are victims of foul play. So they said that very with a grain of salt. They were like, look, there's no evidence, but we're not saying it didn't happen. We're just saying the neighbors, someone saw the kids out in the yard at 6:30 playing. The fire started at 9:30. We can't figure out how the fire happened. We can't find their remains.
There's 3 hours and all this stuff that happened that we can't connect dots on at all.
Yeah. So they're like, when we say there's no evidence, we mean we can't find shit that anything foul play happened, but they are missing, so it's kind of suspicious.
Very. I just think about there's a major highway that runs through there too, between Nashville and Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they like, is a highway. That scares me about being right here by a highway.
Yes.
Because they're right here on my, I'm not going to say my highway. I almost did. I was like, don't dox yourself. I go from one highway and then I go into a much more major artery of a highway and gone. Mm-hmm. Gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind. Former FBI agent and ABC News consultant Brad Garrett said, it's extremely frustrating for investigators, particularly when you have children of tender years like this, 2 of them. Unless they are with somebody who has no intention of harming them, you're very concerned that they've been in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
Between 2006 and 2010, the Tennessee Department of Children's Services investigated the children's mother and Daniel's father. The Associated Press reported. The department is sharing that information with investigator, spokesman Brandon Gee said, but nothing about the investigation has been shared with the public. The TBI did make a statement that they did not believe the parents were involved, but that is all they know. Per Garrett, the key in this case is the origin of the fire. Is it an accident or is it intentional? One theory I found slightly interesting is about a month before the fire, Molly and Bubba updated their will, naming the children as the beneficiary. The previous person was removed and has never been named public. But this has led people to wonder if someone wanted to take them out to then receive everything. So they had a large amount of land, house, and they had some money.
And the land there is valuable because people are transplanting. I mean, it's a lot of people, just like Texas, moving into Tennessee. So the value just keeps going up higher and higher and higher. And this wasn't that long ago.
The new will was believed to be stored in a safe in the house, but that safe has never been found. They were never able to determine...
I bet the sheriff said it burnt. Sorry.
They were never able to determine if it melted or was taken. But this makes me question the whole investigation. Like, how do you not know? Speculation is if the previous beneficiary was going to then turn anything over, they changed their mind once the TBI and the ATF and all the other alphabet police got involved. They got scared.
The alphabet police, I love that.
But I'm like, wouldn't there be like some scorch marks or some melted plastic or metal or something if the safe was there?
There would be a pile of melted metal or plastic or something. It doesn't like poof into air like paper or something and ash away. These are much more substantial materials.
So you would think,
and most safes are fireproof. So,
which really only means fire resistant, as we know. Yeah. But some of it you would think would withstand you.
It'd be much more durable than like a toaster or your couch or something that would leave more of a mark.
Because I'm sure, like, if you went back, you could still tell the refrigerator was there and the stove was there. So if you can tell they were there, you would.
If you could see that the mattress was on top of them.
But who am I?
Just a girl.
Does a podcast.
With her best friend.
That's it.
That's it. Not professionals at all.
The children's mother, Cheryl, believes they were kidnapped and that the fire was intentionally set. 1 year after the fire, a witness reported seeing Chloe at a restaurant and took a photo. Cheryl believes that the girl in the photograph is her daughter. However, authorities were unable to track the girl down. The authorities also believed that the girl looked a lot like her. And you can see the photo, and it looks like it's fucking her.
And you know what the thing is that people, like, it could be trafficking, right? But you know what the scariest thing is? No reason at all. Like, I think about that husband and wife that were murdered. Did you hear about that in Arkansas?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they found the guy who did it, and they didn't know him. He didn't know them.
Yeah.
Just fucking strangers just went out there and did it. A lot of them think that he was after the girls.
Mm-hmm.
But like, oh, man.
Yep. And you'll have to Google later the picture of it. Really does look like her. But that's the thing about trafficking is they'll take these kids and hand them off to different people on the route to taking them wherever they are.
They have safe houses. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're just gone. And then as the kids age and grow up, it's hard to tell if it's them anymore.
And I was thinking, like, what was it, Carrie, that we wrote about where he was abducted and kept, and he was told that
Stephen.
Yeah.
Carrie was the brother that ended up being
Carrie's
the
the
killer.
murderer.
Yes.
But Stephen was like told, like, your parents didn't want you, this, that. So this kid could be in plain sight and not know.
Yep.
Like, could have been there and been like, this is what happened, and they were bad or whatever. People get hidden in plain sight all the time. So I absolutely believe it was a possibility. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, it was Patty Hearst. You know, she got, was it a little bit of Stockholm syndrome when she was abducted and ended up robbing banks and stuff.
Yep. They also had somebody in town who kept ripping down the missing person photos, but they never found out who was doing it. So that's another suspicious thing. Who would rip down missing posters of children?
Of children. I could understand if you're being petty about some bitch that maybe have like stole your parking spot. Be like, ha ha ha. You know, I'm not really. I'm just, but
I know
get what I'm saying. But it's children. What did these children do to you?
Exactly. Chloe was 9 years old when she was last seen in 2012. Today she would be 22. She's described as a Caucasian female with brown hair and hazel eyes. She was 4'8" and weighing around 75 pounds when she was last seen. Gage was 7 years old when he was last seen. Today, Gage would be 20 years old. He is described as a Caucasian male, 4 feet tall, and weighing around 50 pounds when he was last seen. Both children were last seen by a neighbor at 6:30 p.m. the night of the fire. Anyone with information on the case of Chloe and Gage, please contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations at 1-800-824-3463. And again, the Amber Alert remains active and is still active today and is the longest running Amber Alert in the state of Tennessee.
I'm going to ask a question. I don't know the Sauter children.
Well, let me do my resources and then we'll talk about that. I keep calling my resources my sources. Unsolved Mysteries, missingkids.org, WLOS.com, 13 years later, propane tanks explode at Mythbusters, WLS News, longest running Amber Alert, Where Are They podcast, abcnews.go, and YouTube video Crime Bit with Danielle Hallen. And we like to do our little bit of good and spread some information on this. And the Sauter case was the same way, happened way, way, way back in the day. There was a fire and they found the parents' body and not the 5 kids. And
really?
They believe it had something to do with like mafia stuff.
Oh, shit. I had never even heard about that.
None of the 5 kids were found.
Oh, I have to look into that now.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Gotta find these children, Skull.
We gotta find them. And it's sad because there's really not a lot of information out there about them.
No, and that's like, there's so many places they could have went and taken those children. I was like smack dab in the middle of the country.
And the fact that the Amber Alert wasn't issued for 3 days, it could be anywhere in 3 days. Anywhere.
I love how we get those alerts for police officers in Waco and all across the strait. Takes 3 days to do Amber Alert.
Well, and they said the Amber Alert was never released outside of the state of Tennessee. It was only...
Also, they didn't know that the kids weren't there, though, right? That's what was the big
Initially,
part
they
of it,
didn't.
yeah.
And they thought they just weren't finding their remnants in the fire. So that's what led to the delay. Because then once they got
I
the
bet
real
you
people
we issuing them
in,
left and right now.
once the real big dogs got on there and were like, nah, they're not here, then they were like, well, shit, we should probably issue an Amber Alert. But the reason that it wasn't issued nationwide is because there was nothing to make them think they had left the state and nothing to give out.
I mean, there really is no direction whatsoever of what
No.
to. No
Like
clothing,
you-
no vehicle, no person of interest.
Yeah. And like you said, no clothes, no anything.
It's basically just a name and a face.
But it definitely something happened because those grandparents laying side by side in the basement and the kid's not there tells you. To me, that's signs of foul play, but what do I know?
That is huge signs of foul play to me. Like, if they had felt, like you said, they would be in or above that, not below it.
Yeah.
And the fact that they fell through the floor and they're going to end up both perpendicular to each other.
Yeah.
Or parallel to each other, just like sat there, like
Laying perfectly.
In the basement that nobody ever goes down.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of people that when they sleep, they lay perfectly flat with their arms and legs straight.
They for sure don't. I for sure don't.
Yeah. So.
I sleep like I'm struggling, okay?
Exactly.
I also do T-Rex arms.
Me too.
And then I'll wake up and I'll be like, why is my hands asleep?
And my shoulders hurt.
Well, thank you for that. Now I got a whole new wormhole to go down.
Right.
So guys, don't forget to find us on our socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all the platforms, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast. Don't forget to let us know about your own Too Close to Home stories. If you're tired like us, don't forget to get you some Dubby energy drinks. Go to the website dubby.gg, dubby.gg, and use code TCTH to get 10% off energy. And until next time. Oh, yeah, and our merch.
Yes.
Yeah. And until next time,
Stay safe.
keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home. And I got nothing for this one.
Don't reelect that sheriff. That's for damn sure. Don't bring it so close
Yeah.
to home that you hire a podunk sheriff like this who'd be like, well, I'm pretty sure
I know more than everybody else.
it went up in the mist.
That's right. That's right.
Bye. Fucking fire that man. If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.